Hello everyone and welcome to SwitchUp. In today's video we've got one of our physical games episodes for you. This is the series where I show you some of the games I have picked up physically for the Switch in the last few months. We'll have a look at whether there's any mandatory updates needed onto your system's storage, have a look at the box art, see if anything comes inside with it, and then I'll give you a mini review of sorts based on my initial impressions of the game. I've got quite a variety of games here to show you, from hack and slash to shooters, arcadey experiences and more story driven games. So which games have I picked up and are they any good? Well, let's find out. First though, we're going to have a look at a couple of games that were sent to us by a company called Premium Edition Games, so thank you very much to you, it's very much appreciated. Their first release was for Super Blood Hockey, which is a game we actually reviewed back when the digital version came out, and links to any relevant videos for the games featured here will be in the top pinned comment. The box comes with a slipcover and a build it yourself collector's box, which will house a music CD soundtrack and a comic. The game itself is a great deal of fun. It plays very much like the old school NES ice hockey games, such as Blades of Steel for example, but also has quite an interesting career mode where you must recruit new players to your team, train them and participate in matches. Players can actually die during the matches and you would need to have enough money to recruit replacements. It's just pure over the top fun. They also sent us their second release, which is the Pigeon Dev Games Collection, and is a compilation of 4 indie games being Awesome P, Awesome P2, Bucket Night and Explosive Jack. Awesome P and its sequel are both retro, more specifically Game Boy inspired platformers. They have an emphasis on collecting and you will respawn instantly upon death. They both have a CRT filter on as standard, which was a bit much as far as I was concerned. It makes things look a bit blurry and it just doesn't really fit the Game Boy aesthetic the games were going for. Turn it off though in the menu and things look lovely and crisp. Both of these were fun little games, although I found the sequel to be the more refined experience, both in terms of looks and gameplay. Bucket Night is an arcade style run and gun with short contained levels full of collectibles and coins to grab whilst avoiding enemy fire and trying to get to the exit. And finally, Explosive Jack is a bit like the single player modes that you got in some Bomberman games. You must traverse top down levels, blowing up boxes to find the key and the exit to said level. In your way will be things like enemies and gates, and again your bombs will come in handy here. Within the box itself you get this steelbook which has a really interesting design on it, replicating the look of an old CRT TV with the game's title screen playing on it. The game case itself also has a manual in, which I haven't captured on video, but it's a lovely full colour deal with a Game Boy look. I must say I really do like this idea. There are a lot of companies that are beginning to offer small print runs for indie games, but the idea of having these compilations of smaller games really intrigues me. It reminds me of the sort of collections you would get for the Commodore 64 for example, albeit the actual box in this case is definitely modelled after the NES game boxes. On to the games I've picked up now, and we'll start with a heavy hitter. This is Astral Chain. This has kept its value very well due to being published by Nintendo, so when I saw it for just £27.99 the other week, I grabbed it immediately. This is a fantastic action hack and slash game, but it also includes a few investigative parts with some minor RPG elements thrown in for good measure. You play as a member of a special police unit in a future version of Earth that is under threat from enemies from another dimension, and you have assistance with this in the form of your Legion, which is a familiar that is tethered to you via a chain and will assist you in combat. This leads to some great moments as you begin to learn new moves, being able to almost trap enemies to the ground using the chain and then attacking them for example. The game comes from Platinum Games, who have also released The Wonderful 101 and Bayonetta 1 and 2 on the Switch, and it's a highly polished and very enjoyable experience. Combat feels good with a nice fluid and visceral feel to it, and the investigation parts, while perhaps a bit by the numbers, do mix things up a bit. On a more negative front, I do wish your character wasn't a silent protagonist. It's just such an immersion breaker for me when everyone else in this crack task force talk and you only ever nod your head. Small gripe aside though, I would have no qualms recommending this one at all. The next one is a US import which I had wanted due to being a big fan of the original, and I managed to get this for a very good deal of just over £20, including postage and import fees, and that's BurgerTime Party. The party tagline refers to the fact that you can play this game with up to 4 players locally, although I've only played the single player game so far, I must say, and I do really enjoy it. For anyone that's never played BurgerTime, you play as Peter Pepper, who must knock each component of the burgers or the hot dogs down from each layer of the level in order to create the meal at the bottom of the screen. Preventing you from doing this though are the enemies, who are all food based, such as eggs or gherkins with legs, and you have a pepper pot with limited uses which you can use to stun them, and landing a burger part on their head will knock them off screen momentarily. Now, I love arcade games to this day and spend a lot of my free gaming time playing one in some form or another, so this was a great pickup for me, especially for the price, considering it is an import. I will say though that you can get the original BurgerTime on the Switch eShop for a fair bit cheaper than this, so that is also an option if you do like this game. The next one was actually a birthday present from my wife, and that's Spiritfarer. This is a lovely game, one that I had wanted to play for a while but was holding out in the hope it would get a physical edition, and thankfully that did happen in September of this year. You play as a character charged with ferrying the spirits of the dead to their final resting place, but in order to do so you will need to upgrade your ship, building a variety of rooms, plus you must fulfill the final requests of the characters you meet in order for them to gain peace. Now, I'm only about 2-3 hours in to what I believe is about a 20-hour game, but from the short amount I've played I can see that the writing is top notch, and I'm pretty sure this will lead to some very poignant moments later in the game. The physical version comes with some stickers which are of a good quality, as well as some postcards, again printed on high quality card, and it has already dropped in price. As far as I've seen, it can be obtained now for about £20 in some places, which is an absolute bargain. The next game I bought was Nintendo's Game Builder Garage, which intrigued me from the moment it was announced a while back, but a physical copy wasn't released in Europe until a few weeks ago. For those who have not encountered this, it is a game design program which gives you the tools to make some basic games and is full of Nintendo's typical charm and humour. It teaches you what to do via what's called node-ons. So for example, you would attach the stick node-on to the person node-on in order to tell the game that the stick is used to move the character, or the tilt node-on to an object in order to be able to move the object around a maze using gyro controls. It's actually very clever in how simple it is to understand, and the tutorials are extensive. One small negative I have, although some may not feel it is the case, is that owing to that aforementioned Nintendo charm, there are just a lot of times during the tutorials where the node-ons will talk to each other. As I said, it brings that typical Nintendo quirkiness to the package, but it does also draw out what is understandably already quite a dialogue heavy game as you learn the ropes. Maybe I'm just old and grumpy, that could well be the case, but I just wanted it to tell me what to do so I could get on a bit quicker and make games of my own. You can share the games you create online, although you can't just search for anyone's uploaded creations, you must search for a friend's game ID. It's disappointing, but it's a very Nintendo decision, and according to this Q&A I found in a booklet about the game, it was done to prevent children from seeing anything inappropriate online. Anyway, there is a demo available, so perhaps give it a try. I would wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone interested in looking at very basic programming, but just be aware that the online option is limited. Next is a game that I had wanted to get for ages. It's quite a quirky release and it's called Do Not Feed the Monkeys. This actually has a collector's edition too, which I did want to get, but it was just too expensive for what it was, and when I found this standard edition for around £18, I decided to grab it. This is a really interesting game where you work for a corporation overseeing the monkeys, basically humankind, and must observe them via CCTV. You will be offered chances to earn money by finding out info about each human, and to do this you must observe their surroundings, look for clues and listen to their conversations. You then put this information into the in-game web browser to get more information and deduce the answers. On top of this, you will also need to keep your character fed and healthy, so there's a lot of micromanagement at play. I did feel that at times it seemed impossible to keep certain conditions up, especially my health bar, which seemed to drain quite rapidly, leading to game overs, but perhaps I need to get a bit further into the game, surviving until a new element is introduced that helps with this a bit more, I don't know. It's worth a look if you want to try something completely different. Over the summer I bought 51 Worldwide Games, which is another Nintendo published game and is called Clubhouse Games in some regions. I got this because we were going away as a family and I thought it would be something fun to play in the evenings, and it served that purpose perfectly well. My wife and I spent a good amount of time in the evenings playing a game which is basically a version of the dice game Yahtzee. She had never played this before, whereas I used to play the actual game itself with my mum and dad as a kid when we went on holiday, so it was nice introducing a game from my youth to my family now as an adult. There is a good selection of games on here, both single player and multiplayer, and whilst away we focus mainly on the games that use the Switch as a game board, things like air hockey and Ludo. Again, it has that Nintendo charm and is very well presented. The recreations of tabletop games in particular, such as the football and the baseball ones, just look fantastic. There's a lot of fun to be had here, especially in handheld mode when out and about, and for the price we paid, which was about £24 I believe, I think we've already got our money's worth. Now this one I bought a while back, in fact it was literally just after the last of these episodes, and that must have been about 5 months ago now. This is Go Vacation. Now I'd wanted this game for a while, but for some reason it was very difficult to find, and when you did come across it, they were asking for about £50 for it, which is ludicrous. Anyway, I found it for £30 randomly one day, so picked it up, and have played a good few hours of it with my daughter, which was my main intention for wanting to get it. It's a fun collection of sports games ranging from buggy racing, say, to surfing, volleyball, skiing and a few others. There are 4 different resorts to visit, each with a different sort of theme, so for example a beach setting, a more urban setting or a snow-based one, and this of course dictates the sort of games you play at each of these resorts. I believe this was actually a Wii game originally, and it's a nice family-friendly addition to the collection. Since buying this, it has actually become much easier to obtain again for whatever reason. Perhaps it's had a second printing, I don't know, but you can now find it quite easily for around the £30 mark if you are interested. Right, the last game. Now before I talk about this one properly, it's Zombie Army Trilogy, but before I talk about it, I'm going to have a bit of a rant. If you're not interested in hearing me moan, I will put a timestamp and you can jump straight to the game. I just want to have a chat about the shop that I bought this from, a shop called Game over here in the UK. Now, since the lockdown, I'll be fair to Game, their prices have dropped quite dramatically and they're much more competitive than they ever have been. However, when I bought this game, I bought it for £20 in one of their shops. I took it home and I didn't actually notice until I got home that the box was broken, or not the box so much but the actual paper inlay. It had been punctured, but the game was sealed and the seal was fine, so it had obviously happened before the seal was put on. I took it back and asked if I could swap it because obviously it was damaged, and they said that was fine, but then they didn't have a copy of the game. Now they told me, this is the bit that really annoyed me, they told me that because the game works, not that it had even been tested, the game was still sealed, but because the game works, they couldn't give me my money back and could only offer me trade credit. Now this is ludicrous, this is a game shop, it's literally called Game, and they don't understand the value to collectors of games of the boxes as much as the game itself. They didn't have the game I wanted, there was no way of them obtaining it for me, but they wouldn't give me my money back for something that was clearly broken. It was absolutely ridiculous. I will say though that the 2 young fellas that were working in there, they were as good as gold. They were doing everything they could with their hands tied due to the stupid policy of the shop they worked for, so fair play to them. And I did eventually find it in another one of their branches and I got it anyway, so there we go. Anyway, rant over, welcome back if you didn't listen to my whinging. Let's talk about the game, shall we? This is a third-person shooter and is a spin-off from Rebellion's Sniper Elite series. It includes 3 games, the first 2 games from this series, which were both released in 2013 as standalone downloadable content for Sniper Elite V2 and what was an unreleased third entry. They centre around World War II and being a member of a team trying to stop Hitler's newly created zombie army. You can play the game in single player or in multiplayer with both local and online options. This is much more action oriented than the main games in the Sniper series, with there being plenty of parts where you are basically locked in an area with a huge horde of zombies to kill, and due to this, the tactical element comes more from how you will survive and how you will deal with the threat as a team if you are playing in multiplayer, as opposed to trying not to be seen and using stealth as is the case with the main games. Now, I completed this game back on the PS4, but £20 to play through a game I really enjoyed in handheld mode was too good a price to turn down. It seems as if all of the Sniper games are quite cheap to pick up physically these days for the Switch, so they might be worth keeping an eye out for. So there you have it, another 10 games that you can get physically for the Switch. A nice selection there, I think, a few different genres, a few different price ranges. Please do let me know if you own any of these, what do you think, or more importantly, let me know which games you have bought recently and would you recommend them to others. That is a huge part of this series, in the same way with my backlog series, talking about the games you've completed, also makes that series what it is for me. Now, because it's been so long since the last part of this, I do actually have another 10 games ready to go for a second part in this, but a few of those are JRPGs and I want to put some time into them until I do a new part, so it'll be in about a month's time, but look out for that, there's some really good games in there to come for sure. If you work for Game, please do let me know what you think of your shop's policy. I think it's bloody stupid, but there you go. Thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.